Hello and welcome to The Dive. Now more than ever, we need to be finding ways to help us navigate the challenges of being an artist. You're listening to The Dive podcast, a show specifically designed for performing artists to help you stop the stress and overwhelm and instead find ways to get on stage with confidence, passion, and ease. I'm your host, Taylor Scanlan. I'm a fellow performing artist and founder of The Dive, the fastest growing support platform for performing artists. Each and every week, we have a brand new guest on the show who is a professional in the industry to discuss their unique stories and help us tackle the industry challenges to help you perform, rest, and excel at your peak. I believe that we all have a unique story to share, but most of our struggles are common. So without further ado, let's dive right in, let's get to work and create a career of a lifetime. Okay, welcome to the show, Priscilla. How are you?
Oh, I'm so well, Taylor. How are you? Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
We have been trying to set this up for so long, and I'm just so
I know.
keen for the listeners to
Oh
hear
my
from
God.
you. Gosh, it's been a long road. Hey.
It really, really has. But yeah, we're here today, and that's all that
Yeah.
matters, really. Yes.
Absolutely. So Priscilla's on today. We're going to be talking a lot on mindset and health. Priscilla's a health coach and also a performing artist, currently in Chicago at the time of filming, and just has a wealth of knowledge. So we'll get right into the episode with you, Priscilla, and maybe you can start off with telling us a little bit about your journey in the arts and, kind of what led you to then become a health coach as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started performing at a very, very young age, and very early on discovered that I wanted to do this as a career. It was a full body, hell yes, I want to do this. And from my small suburban school, I then went to PSA, which is what we have in common, which was
Yes.
an incredible full-time course here in Melbourne. And then that led me to I think I got my job 18 months out of full-time. And I was sort of thrown into the world of performing, like musical theater essentially. I was doing some other corporate stuff to begin with, but yeah, I was just sort of thrown into it. And yes, I had the skill set and all of that. And I'm very grateful for PSA for giving me all of those tools. But it was a shock to the system. And then slowly but surely, I was really in the thick of performing, and I just felt very depleted, and I felt
Mm.
like there was something missing in my life. And I could see that I certain situations would make me spiral at work, and I knew that it wasn't conducive to me. I'd go home and I would feel exhausted. I was like, oh, I'm doing the thing that I love. Why is it that I feel, not that I didn't love it, but just something didn't sit right with me? And then that led me into sort of the health and wellness world. And I sort of dove into that and then became a health coach, a certified health coach through the IIN program, which is by correspondence in the US. And I also became a certified Pilates instructor. And I sort of delved myself into that world. And that was the turning point. Everything in my life, not just my career, just blossomed because I started to feed other areas of my life. And yeah, this is
Mm.
where I'm at today, really.
Oh,
The
I
rest is
love
history.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
And gosh, that's amazing. And that progression that you've gone onto to now, have that under your belt. And how did you see, or what was the massive difference you found to pre and post that understanding and awareness of, health and that impact on your career?
Well, I think for me, it was really having a look at my life, and it was getting very clear about what wasn't working. And
Mm.
that does, you need to have awareness to be able to do that. And I think once you know, you can't know. And so
Mm.
by going through the course, I started to realize where I was lacking in my life. And so when you're becoming a health coach, you look at your primary foods first, which people don't really, they're quite shocked when they hear about it because they think, oh, it's food related, and it's actually not. Your primary foods are your relationship to self, to your career, to your physical activity, and to something um, uh, bigger than yourself, like spiritual. It could be God, it could be, yoga, it could be meditation, whatever it is, but just connecting to something that is not just your physical, it's something beyond. And so when I
Amazing.
started to analyze all of those facets of my life, I was like, oh, okay, my future self wants to feel its best, but
Mm,
my relationship to myself is not very good. Okay, how do I want to feel? I would ask myself, and I write all of this down. I want to feel good in my skin. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being okay with who I am. Okay, how do I do that? Okay, meditation was key for me. It was really delving into the health and wellness world and finding my mentors and getting advice and then bringing that into my home and practicing that with my partner, with my mum, with my dad, with my siblings. So all of those things I was starting to look at. And it's not about finding perfect balance because there's no such thing. It's about finding harmony with all of those things. And when you see that the battery is depleting on one thing, it's like,
oh,
okay, look, my battery's full here, but why don't I just give a little bit more energy here to bring this back up? And then you start to find a little bit of equilibrium. Balance is a tricky thing to talk about
mm,
because it's not about being perfect in every aspect. It's just allowing the ebb and the flow of things and kind of going, okay, this needs it here. Okay, my focus needs to go here for a little bit. This needs, okay, and then I'll go here. And that's, it's a little bit of a dance between all
mm,
of those things. So, once I started to have a look at those aspects to my life, I started to implement tools and action, some things that worked for me, and it is individual. This health and wellness is not a one size fits all. One person's food is someone else's poison. So it was really coming in
mm.
tune, really, really aligning with what works for me, being okay with that, not looking left and right to what everyone else was doing. And I know that's very tricky when you're coming into the industry, but the earlier that you start to come into this, and the more that you, like I said, you want to be a student for life. You want to open up to all these different things, because all of the things that you pick up along the way make you very different. And so, yeah, when I started to open up, I could see a very big difference. And I went, this is what I want to feel. I want to feel amazing. And it's not about being amazing every day, because we all have bad days, but
Mm,
I could see that my old self started to just let go, and it was
shed
it was
away.
just shed away. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. And so, yeah, and it's a quest every day. It's we're on a path of
Mm,
you finding and learning and making mistakes. Making mistakes is a great thing. And
yes.
just like I said, one foot in front of the other, being a student for life. And that's
Mm,
that's the greatest tool.
absolutely. Yes. Amen to all of that.
So
Oh,
that's a
wow.
very long answer to a very, very short and potent question.
No, I mean, we're both extremely passionate about it, and you can hear it in your voice as well. And even when, now coming in, when you were before, learning about all this health stuff, and when you were being an up and coming performer, what was the biggest challenges that you kind of faced? And, how did you overcome them when you were starting out?
So I would say the biggest challenge for me, and I still suffer from this today, by the way, was just not feeling good enough,
Mm,
feeling the imposter syndrome. And there wasn't really a solution at the time that I would recommend now. But how I would get through it is I guess I would just really surround myself with people that I would inspire me. And I'm like, okay, look, it's not about being perfect, and it's about working through some of the things that I need to work on. Like, okay, I need to go and do more this class, like tap class or whatever. And so I would work in that way to overcome my hurdles. So I would step into the room with more confidence. However, the actual deep-seated issue, which is now I can debunk it better, and then I'd say at 27 I started to really gain the right tools for it, was to actually just laugh at myself. And I know that sounds hilarious, but it's like you can't take it too seriously, because we are just playing dress up and we're on stage and we're telling a story. And I know it's hard because as performers, you're wearing your heart on your sleeve. A lot of people don't have jobs like this. They go to work, they can just, be at a desk and do their thing. And that's amazing. As performers, you're really exposing your inner self. And that is quite challenging. And so
Absolutely.
I would try not to take it too seriously. And
Mm,
so now I try to delve into other aspects of my life, like health and wellness is obviously something I'm so passionate about. And I dive into that. And that brings perspective when it comes
mm,
to, my confidence, and going, it's okay, still, like, all right, that note wasn't the greatest note that I've ever sung. That's fine. Like, or my leg didn't go up as high. And it's like, those things are all okay. It's like one foot in front of the other. It's fine, because tomorrow we've got another day, hopefully, God willing,
yeah.
and, we can just keep persevering. Persevering is the biggest thing. And we need to really tighten that up, because sometimes when the going gets tough, you want to give up. Just don't
Mm,
give up. That's the one thing. If you're really passionate about it, don't give up, because there's so many avenues you can take in this industry. And so, yeah, just not taking myself so seriously and having a giggle.
absolutely.
That
Yeah.
really
And
overcame a lot of my problems. As simple as it is, it really was what helped me.
well, that's it. I feel like there's a lot of the time we are so passionate, and with that passion becomes that want to do really well, and so that can become
Mm.
super serious and super, uh, strategical. But at the end of the day, we all started performing because we found fun going to class. We had fun being with other like-minded people that wanted to create and
Mm.
perform, and we loved that aspect that we could dive into characters that we, you know, can either relate to or maybe not relate to, and have those little challenges. But definitely by
Mm.
bringing fun, even myself, I've been finding that element to, even when I'm swinging, going on for something new, adding elements of
Oh.
fun along the way. Like I remember the other day, I was just like, grabbed someone who I was about to go on with, and I'm like, all right, so we do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, great, and then we go there and out, and then we're done. And they're like, yeah. And also, adding that element of fun with the person, if you're partnering, bringing that communication. And I think fun can help so many, and
Oh.
enjoyment and passion can bring a lot of enjoyment and change to the world, not even in performing.
Oh my God. And it is just as simple as that shift, right? You've got two ways to take a certain situation, especially as a swing, when you're going on for something, maybe a cover that you've not done yet. And it is quite daunting, and it's scary. And you can choose which way you want to take it. You can take the fear route, or you can take the route of, let's just have fun here. Like, and at the end of this, there's going to be so many nuggets of wisdom in that moment.
Yes.
And so from that first time, it won't be the first ever again. And so taking that as a positive rather than a negative, and I know that's really hard because in the moment it is so scary, but just know
Mm,
that at the end of it, right, you'll be okay, you'll be fine. And so
mm,
just remembering all of those things that it seem really basic, but they're just important to always know.
mm. And then I feel on that you end up learning to trust yourself a lot more when you allow yourself to enjoy it, because you bring that lightness. It brings a light flavor to what you're doing, so that it doesn't become so
Mm.
dense and so controlling. It's something that you can just lightly process even afterwards, when, you know,
Mm,
yeah, when we're on
mm,
stage, things happen so quick, right? So having that
right,
lightness
very.
quality allows us to not only process it, but also just reflect it in a way that is also light and not destroying, or like, oh, why the heck did I do that? It's like, oh, I did that. I know, myself, that I can change those things, and
Mm,
having that awareness, which you said comes from, learning these tools about health, and really becoming your best supporter in the form of awareness and perspective that you mentioned, really gaining
100%.
perspective. I think that's the biggest thing that health gives us, is that awareness to actually really take responsibility to go, oh, I'm feeling this way and I need to take responsibility to change it, because there's no one else coming to give
There's
me
no one.
these health advice. There's no one else coming.
It's hard, and I think too, like, to any young aspiring performer, and I do think social media is a wonderful tool, but it can also work to the demise. And we want instant gratification. We want things to happen quickly and fast and give me the information. Da, da, da. And it's like sometimes slow and steady is wins the race, my
Yeah.
opinion. And so I think that, perspective is a progress. It's not something that can be gained straight away and very quickly. And, to be okay with that, because this is for the long haul.
Mm.
And so you don't want to be like a burst of energy and then it fizzles out.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
and that's key. Like we want performers to be long lasting. It doesn't have to be a short career. That's a choice.
Mm. Mm. No, that's so true. And in that, what would you say currently, in the health and wellness, because that's where we're kind of
Mm,
focusing on today,
yes,
which I know we'll
yes,
have
yes.
we have so many things to talk about, but if we were to bring it, focus back to health and wellness, what would you
Mm.
say are the most common issues or challenges you're seeing performers have lately with health and wellness?
I think relationship to food is a very
Mm,
is something that I would love to discuss, because I think too, again, people see other people online, what they're eating, what they're doing, and it's you really shouldn't be doing that, because again, you are very individual. Everyone is so individual. So what works for you won't work for someone else, and vice versa. And so when it comes to food, it's as a lot of people are quite put off by the word health and all of that. And I want to debunk
mm,
that, because to me, it's really about finding tools and a way of eating and a way of living, um, that you tailor to your lifestyle, right? And so, for example, if maybe you're eating too much chocolate, I say stop focusing on the things that you want out, that you don't
mm,
want. Because the minute you start to focus on the don'ts, it starts to sort of mess with your progress. There is a particular tool that I use myself. It's called the crowding out method. And you start to implement really good things. Don't focus on the things that you don't want, just let them be, but start to implement things. So it could be, going to the grocery store and picking something that you've never used before. It could be a
mm.
herb, it could be as simple as that. I've never used this before. Google's your best friend. Okay, how can I use this in my meal today? And so we're using something different. The body thrives off, like, different, like
A
an array of
variety.
things, a variety of things. Like, you don't want to be eating the same thing every single day. And it's okay if you do as well. It's not the worst thing ever. But if you can start to implement just different things, and it just could be, I don't know, a different type of carbohydrate. It could be like a sweet potato. It could be a different kind of potato, whatever you want, just using something different. And,
Mm,
and then it could be, all right, like I've got a bit of a sugar kick. Instead of buying chocolate, I'll buy a healthy alternative, right? So when that quick fix, I need that, I'm choosing something that might not be packed full of sugar. And so you start to bring all of these new things, and then you slowly watch over time the other things start to crowd out, and you don't
mm.
want those things. But
It's
it's
almost
because
as
it's a
though
slow.
you're redirecting the focus. Instead of
You're
highlighting all
redirecting
this
them.
negative, you're highlighting what you actually want. And by doing that,
Hmm.
then you're only enhancing that and making that kind of
Correct.
main character of what's
It's the
going on.
it be, it's exactly right, and it becomes a habit, right? And so we can only create positive habits and health choices if we stay committed. It doesn't mean that you don't indulge. I really do live by an 80-20% rule,
Mm,
and that works for me. That's just my personal take. I can't force people to do that, but I can guide people to do that. And so it's, another thing with food is cooking at home. You know what you're cooking with as well. And so bringing that as well into your routine, and it may not need to be every single day, because I know it's hard. Some people don't like being in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the food service that you can use every now and then as well to be, of service to you. But just like doing those and connecting a really beautiful relationship to food. And it's about nutrition, and it's about feeling good, and it's about feeling strong so that you can go to work and you can perform like the machine that you want to be you know
Mm.
so all of these things, again, slow and steady. It's not going to be like a quick fix, but it's just like every day you 1% better will make you 365% better by the end of the year, right? So it doesn't have to be like a mammoth thing. Don't like be at the bottom of the mountain looking up at the top going, oh my god, this is so. No, just one step at a time, and you'll see a big
Mm.
difference.
Hey performers, a quick break here. Have you ever felt stuck in your career, struggling with things like self-doubt or performance anxiety? First of all, know that you're not alone, and even myself, I've been there too, and I know how tough it can be. And that's why I'm really excited to share something special with you. We're kicking off The Dive's first ever 5-day mindset challenge from the 17th of June to the 21st of June. And it's 5 days focused on transforming your mindset and breaking through those barriers that are holding you back. We've got some amazing guest masterclasses lined up with industry pros like Luca Donato, Sophie Holloway, Carter Rickard, Samantha Donamaid, and I'll be there too, of course. If this sounds like something you are interested in and would love to benefit from, check out our link in the show notes, or you can visit our website to sign up. It's going to be an extraordinary event, and I hope to see you there. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the word machine that you brought up, because it reminds me of an athlete's mindset, and how I feel as though there's that gap in the industry where performers really don't see themselves as athletes. And I'd love for you to, I was going to ask a question about how to, maybe even practical steps to maintain physical health. But when I feel like you can't really talk about one without talking about the other in terms of
So
mind
true.
and then emotional, I feel
It's all
even in the,
connected.
and that's it. I think even growing up myself and learning from Western practices, we're taught to really like section off bits of ourselves as though they're separate to one another, and that they don't like, by just focusing on our emotional side, that it has no effect on what's happening physically, and that's just wrong. So yeah, I love that in terms of machine and getting on stage, we really need to become an athlete. And if we look at athletes, they have a team of people that are helping them, and they're looking at all the aspects and making sure that they are all, in terms of what you were saying before, even in that battery. I love using kind of metaphors that you can see, even asking yourself, okay, where is my mindset battery today? Where is my
Yes.
health set, my heart set? And really finding ways to start promoting or helping yourself move forward as an athlete, and maybe even starting to see yourself. Maybe this is the first time people, and if you're listening in, that you've heard about that, but we really are.
Well, that there is, it's, to me, it's not even a conversation. We are athletes. And I think too, when you actually sit with that notion, and you sort of say, yeah, I am an athlete, you'll feel different just even acknowledging that. And you're like, okay, I'm an athlete. Okay, well, how does an athlete behave, right? And so, because it's hard for some people when they don't have the show, for them to stay motivated, right? And so you've got to create your own timetable. You've got to create your own, you just got to be excited about creating your own lifestyle around what it is that you want to achieve. Again, future self, what does your future self want to feel like? And so, like, just a small thing that I do in the morning. I stopped for a little bit, and then I started to introduce it again, because I was at work and I was talking it amongst people, and we're like, oh, we've got to get back into dry body brushing, because that really, and it's as simple, like, you wake up in the morning, you do your thing, before you jump in the shower, you grab your body brush and you just, from the bottom up, from the feet, you start to work your way up, getting that blood flow towards the heart. And it takes all of 3 minutes and you jump in the shower. One thing I've added for the day that's just made a world of difference. What that does is it gets the lymphatic system working. The only way to actually get the lymphatic system working, which helps with ridding toxins, is by physically touching the lymph nodes and getting the body to move that out by using a body brush, for example, or you can
Mm.
tap, right? And so all of those things, as simple as it is, it makes such a big difference, because when you stop doing it, you're like, something's not right. And so, it's just a very simple tool. And so as athletes, again, your body has to be primed. How do you prime it? You've got to get rid of toxins. You know,
Mm.
there's a smoothie that I have where I put a bit of dulse, which is like seaweed flakes, and that actually draws out heavy metals out of the body. And
Mm.
that's another way to get rid of toxins. So as much as we're putting in, we've also got to assist in ridding as well. And so, little things like that. I always talk about these little tips that we can just include, and it doesn't have to, it's cost effective. You dry body brush, you can go to any chemist, and, you don't have to splurge a shit ton of money. And, but you can implement, and it does make a huge difference. And,
Mm.
again, you're priming your body and your mind to put your body through a lot of stress, because what we're doing when we're putting our leg up to here, it is not easy. You've got to supplement. You can't just keep giving. It's like a car. You can't expect the car to drive on nothing. So you've got to
Mm.
fuel that car up, and by fueling, it's like all the things that we're talking about, so that you can, maintain, even if you're not performing, right? You've got to look after
Yeah.
yourself. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think this comes in with a lot of the time where even when you're up and coming and you're wanting to get into the industry, it's this massive focus of I've just got to get in. But when you're learning things about health and mindset, it's really
Mm,
like you were talking about before, it's the long game, it's the long term. Because if you get in, which is amazing, like it's then talking about how you're going to stay there and what practices are you doing to stay on stage for 8 shows a week, because it's tough. An athlete that does the Olympics trains 4 years to perform for a few minutes or
mm,
under an hour. We are training for
mm.
however many years to then perform for 2 hours a day or even more.
Oh
So
my
that
gosh,
if you're
8 shows
putting
a
it
week is no
eight
joke.
shows a week, so it's these practices that I feel, if you're new to mindset, and maybe you can give some advice on people that, maybe where can people start? It's great us
Mm,
talking about this and how it's worked for us, but what would your
of
advice be
course.
for someone listening right now going, oh my gosh, okay, they're talking about it, it's obviously important, but there's so many
Mm,
things that I can start with. What's the best place to start with health and tapping into
yes.
all of this cool stuff?
Yeah, well, I would say the first thing is, and I know it can be a little overwhelming, but I do think you need to start with writing. And the reason being is because you've got to get it all out on paper. So start by, and I've said this 3 times already, so sorry if I'm repeating myself, but you do need to know how your future self wants to feel. So when it comes to your relationship to food, okay, you want to feel strong, right? And so to write all of that down, how you want to feel. And then when it comes to something like the food element, I would start by very simple things: fiber on the plate, healthy fats on the plate, protein on the plate, and carbohydrates. 3 out of the 4 is perfect. You don't have to have all 4 of those things, but as long as you have fiber, carbohydrates, fats, and protein on the plate, it's perfect. You're already like 10 steps ahead. But we're trying to have a very nutritious meal so that we can actually supplement what we're doing on stage, right?
Mm.
And so that's a really good tip. Just those 3 out of 4 things, if you can have on your plate, super, super easy. Um, and I mean, we can also dive into like what are healthy fats. It could be like walnuts, avocados, um, almonds, all sorts of things. Then we've got your carbohydrates, your whole grains, your oats, your vegetables, your potatoes. We can talk about your fiber. It could be your broccoli, your beans. And then you've got your protein, which could be fish, chicken, your red meat, your tofu, your tempeh, all of
Hmm.
those sorts of things. And so they're just small little things. And you've got your fruits and your veggies and all of that. So I don't want to overwhelm people, but if you can just pick 3 out of the 4, I promise you, your gut will be
Oh,
so happy. Um, Another thing we can implement, like I said, is like, the dry body brushing, and that's, your physicality. And that could also lead to like picking workouts that really work for you. You don't have to spend a lot of money. YouTube is a wonderful thing as well. There's workouts on that. I love yoga and I love Pilates. That's what works for me. So I implement that on a weekly basis, So I start there. So it's like, okay, I've got my food, right? I've got my workout that fills me up. I don't feel depleted when I do yoga and Pilates. I actually feel energized. Okay, what else helps? Okay, meditation is not for all, but meditation works for me. It could just be affirmations while you're getting ready in the morning. I've got an affirmations playlist and I play that as I'm getting ready. I'm not necessarily listening like intently, but it's in my subconscious. It's there,
mm-hmm.
it's playing. So that's another way I prime myself for work. And yeah, just those little things, that's how I get started. I don't overwhelm. I hope by me mentioning all of this, it doesn't overwhelm people. But
Yeah.
to me, these little things, you take what works for you. Everything I say, take with a grain of salt. If maybe adding sweet potatoes is all that you took from it, amazing. If dry body brushing is what you take from it, amazing. If listening to affirmations is what works for you, great. I'm just giving you all of the things that I,
Yeah.
implement. Supplements is always a good thing to talk about. I take a probiotic every morning just to prime my gut, and water first thing in the morning. Water, 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 water. And then you can enjoy the rest of your day with whatever you want to indulge in.
Oh, that's it. And I feel like that's all it takes is just one thing, like you said, if all you got it was sweet potato, I love that. With this, it's really a journey within itself, and know that when any journey just starts with just one action, and then it ends up being a domino effect. So yeah, if
Mm,
you're listening in, yeah, that advice is really crucial. Just start, just see how you go, and see what works
yes.
for you. And I absolutely love when the first thing you said was to write it out, because this new generation, that are listening in now, I know you're, typing stuff out on your phone or you're typing on computer, and there is a time and place, but there's something biologically, all of it with your senses by
I know.
physically writing
You
something
need
out
to
that
write.
is different.
Yes,
You need to try it.
you do. I
And
agree with that.
yeah, and I do an actual practice myself to kind of
Mm.
add in if people want to start with this, is I call it a brain dump. So in the morning, you just
I call
brain
it a
dump.
brain dump.
Do you? There you
I call it a
go.
brain dump too. I say all the time at work, I'm like, brain dump, just get it
Brain
out.
dump. Da 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 da. Yeah, instead of going to your friend and blabbering about your whole entire life, put it onto paper in the morning. And the tool is here to just write. Just keep. I mean, it kind of comes from the Artist's Way, that book, that everyone kind of heard about and came
Mm,
across. But
mm,
the
Morning
tool here is just
pages.
the morning pages, just to write, and don't let your pen just like come off the paper. It will sound ridiculous, and that it's meant to, because it's meant to be a reflection of what's happening in your mind.
Mm,
Gosh, Priscilla,
mm,
there's days that
mm.
I've wrote out and gone, how can one human be holding all of this information in their head? How exhausting. Oh my gosh, what have I been
I know,
doing?
I
And
know, I
when it's
know.
when it's out there, you automatically feel, oh well, now I don't have, there's a space. It's almost like your pen and
Yes,
paper are like a hard drive for your thoughts,
yes,
and that you can just download, put onto paper, and allow space
yes,
to be cleared in the brain, because it's there if you
yes,
need to reflect on it. That you mentioned that.
absolutely. Oh yeah, I know. It's almost like a dying art form, isn't it?
Oh,
So we've got to stay true to it, because
yeah,
it's everything is so tech.
yeah.
It's nice to just put the phone away for a sec.
Just a sec. Yeah, for
Just a
sure.
sec.
Well, coming into closing with the show today, I mean, oh,
Mm.
I wish I could speak to you forever, but
Oh,
in terms of
likewise.
in terms of your career, what was
Mm.
what has been like the best advice that you've maybe ever received in your career?
Oh, oh gosh. Uh, The best advice. Oh, this is a tough one. Let me think about this.
Because this can come
Mm,
into, when you were starting out, or even just along the
mm,
way. It can be more than one if you're thinking of lots of things. But something that what I found
mm,
in my journey, as you just think, that has
mm.
helped me is, even for the example for this podcast, all it took was me talking about wanting to help performers to my mum, and my mum was like, you should do a podcast. And literally within the next week, because someone said to me and I had that advice, I found a studio, booked a studio, hired 3 people, and was sitting there recording, doing an episode going, I've never interviewed anyone in my life. So
Mm,
yeah, what advice,
mm.
what's has helped you along the way? What's been the best piece?
I look, I met my husband very early on in my career, so I do think that it does hold some weight. One of the first things he said to me is always know your power. And I was like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't understand what that means. And he proceeded to say, he's like, when you are starting off and you have beginner's mind, that is the most powerful tool right there, because it's not so full of all the things that we now know as professionals, and to use that as your power.
Mm,
And now as an adult, I understand, because when you are starting off, your senses are heightened. Everything you're taking, you're a sponge. And just like, I know it's hard when you're starting off to know your power, but just to know when you have, I have a joke with one of my cast members, we go collagen, you know, young collagen, you've got the collagen, right? And it's like, and it's like, there's, that youth is actually quite special, and use that to your power. Use the fact that you are so new as a beautiful thing, and be open to always learning. And I remember doing that when I was very young and starting off. So know your power and be okay with being the youngest in the room, be okay with the fact that you don't know everything. And that's something I wish I really indulged in a little more,
mm,
So I think I would have enjoyed being young a little more if I had really understood that. So now that I can dissect it and pass that on to young emerging artists, it's, don't be afraid of the novelty, of it all. It's and being a novice in this industry. Um, yeah, use that. It's a beautiful thing. Don't feel ashamed of not knowing things.
mm. Oh, beginner's mindset. I
Yeah.
I implement a lot, and even I've been tapping back into a deeper meditation practice, and in that they talk about begin again.
Mm,
Halfway through the meditation, they go, let thoughts come, notice them. Okay, now begin again. And I think that's so
mm,
smart. And we were
mm,
talking about earlier about how important it is to be a lifelong student. A lot of the
mm,
time when you are a student, you feel like, okay, I'm going to become a professional and that's it. But having that
mm.
beginner mindset is so valuable. And if you can always instill that, you're just going to learn so much. So thank you so much for that advice.
Oh my God, pleasure. It's, as you get older too, like I'm starting to talk less and listen more. And
Oh,
so I would also say that's probably the other thing I would add, listen more, even if you do know the answers. Yeah, I listen and I observe, and I think that there's power in that as well.
mm. Couldn't agree more. If listeners wanted to connect with you or
Mm.
even learn more about your work as a health coach, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Instagram, PS Health by Priscilla Stavru, just on Instagram. And yeah, I've got some workouts on there as well that you can do. You can reach out and we can talk about anything, related to health or food, or whatever lights you up or whatever you need help with. I'm here to, uh, make people feel great about being in this industry, because it is a beautiful industry, and I want people to feel their absolute best. And yeah, come find me on Instagram. I guess that's the place to be, really.
That's it. That's it. Oh, awesome. Well, I'll add a bunch of things that we've listed in the show notes and how to connect with Priscilla. And as always, if you have any questions for myself, you can email us at The Dive at info@thedive.com.au. Thank you so much, Priscilla.
Thank you so much for having me. Mwah.
Big love. You've been listening to The Dive Podcast, the fastest growing support platform for performing artists. For more resources, tools, techniques, and tips, you can head to our website, www.thedive.com.au. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review for us. And if you feel like this episode could resonate with anyone else in your network, feel free to share it online or share it with a friend directly. Be sure to check us out on Instagram with the handle @thedive.com.au, where we come on each week and share a little bit more about the behind the scenes of the podcast and any upcoming workshops, classes, and offers with The Dive.